Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Kiss and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and today I'm participating in the Spring is in the Air book tag. I was tagged by Pat from Book Chat with Pat. Thank you very much. I'm loving your tags, by the way, that you participate in, and the dialogue that you continue. So, Spring is in the Air tag was created by Daniela from Uncommon Reader and Rene from Beyond Books, along with co-host Raina, and I hope they get a little extra treat for their participation. Spring may be in the air, but I am in California, and I'm in perpetual summer, I guess right now it feels like. So here we are. Also, I am going to tag some people. I think I'm just going to continue to tag people that I've recently subscribed to, engage with, and a couple other people that I recently just chatted with. But if you were not tagged, feel free to please still hop on the tag train and participate. And please tag me so I could I could engage with you and talk about your answers as well, because I'm really enjoying this. All right, so the first question is, Spring Chicks, name a book that made you feel warm and fuzzy. Immediately, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. It's so funny. I don't gravitate towards fantasy, and I don't necessarily gravitate towards cozy reads. This is a first cozy read for me. And it really set the standard, and I don't think any cozy read I've read since then has really hit the same way. This is about a character that actually, okay, here's the deal. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, this is basically like, picture a character from Dungeons and Dragons, but they decide to live like a more quiet life. So that's what the main character does. They go off, Viv decides to open a cafe. And so what they're learning is that they perceived strength in a certain way and realize that, well, strength isn't just like a one size fits all. Sometimes showing strength is being able to accept what you can't figure out, being vulnerable and asking for help from your community. And that is also a strength. And it's really sweet. Plan to talk about baked goods and characters that really stand out, even like secondary characters as well. So I really love this one. I always feel warm and fuzzy with this. All right. Second prompt, April Showers or Spring Showers, a book that is set near or in or on the water, or that has the word water in the title. The Underwater Dweller by Jeff Lemire. I've read other work. I've read Sweet Tooth, the comic series, and I really like that. That really stole my heart. I still haven't read this. This has been on my shelf for a while. And just reading the synopsis, you'll know why I picked it up. As an underwater welder on an oil rig of the coast of Nova Scotia, Jack Joseph is used to the immense pressure of deep sea work. Nothing, however, could prepare him for the pressures of impending fatherhood. As Jack dives deeper and deeper, he seems to pull farther and farther away from his young wife and their unborn son. Then one night, deep in the icy solitude of the ocean floor, something unexplainable happens. Jack has a mysterious and supernatural encounter that will change the course of his life forever. One day I will carve out the time to read this. But whenever I read something, I have a hard time slow reading books. I always just kind of like want to intensely binge. So that's why this has been on my shelf for so long and I haven't read it yet. Spring break. Talk about a time you took a break from reading and why. Well, a couple of years ago in November, probably like 2 years ago, there were some books on my shelf and they were all nonfiction and I wanted to read them. On top of that, came from Native Lady Book Warrior. recommended this first book, Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grand. This focuses on the Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. This was also made into a movie. This journalist really dug into the story, and there's just so much that I'm sure editors would find this to be a nightmare or not let him get away with this, but it's like he tells a story and then there's almost like a part where you think the story should like end because it's like nonfiction and like historical fiction. Nonfiction historical, right? And then there's a character that had a fascinating life. So then the author goes into that particular person's life just so you kind of know what happened to them post this time period. And then the story continues where now the author is then inserting himself and meeting with other people in the indigenous community because there's actually still more to unravel. So he's really tapping into what happened during the massacres, but also how there continues to be ripple effects. And that same month, I also read A Great Place to Have a War, America and Laos and the Birth of the Military CIA. You can see that there's a theme, the birth of bad things, by Joshua Kurlandzik. This is about, I just got to read the back because I'm not going to do this justice. 1961, Laos, a tiny nation few Americans have heard of, is at risk of falling to communism and triggering a domino effect throughout Southeast Asia. This is what President Eisenhower believed when he approved the CIA's Operation Momentum, creating an army of ethnic Hmong to fight communist forces there, largely hidden from the American public and most of Congress. Momentum became the largest CIA paramilitary operation in the history of the United States. The brutal war lasted more than a decade, left the ground littered with thousands of unexploded bombs, and changed the nature of the CIA forever. Using recent declassified records and extensive interviews, A Great Place to Have a War shows for the first time how the CIA clandestine adventures in one small Southeast Asian country became the template for how the United States has conducted war ever since, all the way to today's war on terrorism. And lastly, these weren't the only books, but these are just three I'm talking about that I read in the same month. I read Edwin Black's Nazi Nexus, America's Corporate Connection to Hitler's Holocaust. This author is a Jewish author. He's a journalist. And so he's written so many books that are talking about the corporate interests and the influence that they had on Hitler and what he created. And so what his publishers actually asked him to do was write this book. It's like a little over 150 pages. And because he's boiling down almost like an appendix, for lack of a better word, of his books, we're able to see like the connections. And so between reading all these, I was in like a bit of a spiral. And so that's what made me take a break from reading. I just wasn't really doing well mentally, and it just feels a bit frustrating when I'm in the States. That's where my nationhood is, and the States has been responsible for so much, massacres, there's very bad things here in our own nation and also abroad. And so sometimes it just feels like too much, and there's this spiral of the knowledge and just feeling like maybe helpless, like I can't change the past and I don't know what to do about tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And so that's when I needed to take a break from reading. Okay, Swallow's Homecoming, a book or an author you always go back to for comfort. I don't talk about this book often, but that first book by Deborah Harkness, A Discovery of Witches, I don't ever quite finish it. It's not really that. I'll just kind of pick it up and read it here and there. And there's something that's just so comforting about this world. And so it's about uh, a young scholar, Diana, meets a vampire, Matthew, in a library. And it's actually the Oxford's Bodleian Library. There's chemistry between them. And this is someone that doesn't really know about their past. So Diana doesn't really connect with, her family's past of being witches. If I start talking about this, I'll go on and on. But there's magic, there's romance, there's suspense, there's history, and I love history. So just all these different elements that I enjoy. I believe this is like a three book series, and then there's kind of like a one-off. It's called Time Converts, and it's from a different characters. And the author also came out recently with another book, I think this past year, that I haven't picked up yet. And I think it's called The Oracle's Blackbird, something like that. I'm messing up the title that I'm going to want to read. But I think I love the characters so much. And they're definitely flawed characters that I really enjoy. I don't know, something about the world that they built really works for me. And so this is a book that I'll kind of take a peek at just to dip into that world. All right, where was I? Blooms, a book that started slowly but blossomed to be one of your favorite reads. Sorry, the crows outside are getting wild. I would say in 2020 or 2021, Canada Reads, I learned about Canada Reads. I never saw that competition. It's an annual competition. And I think like about 5 people will champion a book. And, by the end, there's a winner. So the book that I chose is actually the runner-up. That particular year, I think Joshua Whitehead's Johnny Appleseed won. So the second runner-up was Butter Honey Pig Bread, and it's by Francesca Ekwuyasi. I hope I'm saying that right. This book is definitely a slow pace. So if you don't like slow pace, this won't be for you. There's this thing with the way that the author writes a story with a character in mind that bakes and cooks quite a bit. And there's this constant, when they're doing that, there's constant like meditation. And also, I feel like the story itself is just like a slow cooked stew in a way, if that makes any sense. And so the story just unravels so slowly in a way that if it had been handled by any other writer, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But I love this. It's very delicate. This revolves around, I believe, sisters. It's been a while since I read this. And they have like a fractured relationship, and it starts to unravel why that is. So on the inside it says, believing herself to be an Obanji, a spirit that plagues a family with grief by dying repeatedly in childhood and being reborn, Kambiranachi fears the consequences of her defiant decision to stay alive. Her worst fears come true when Kindi experiences a devastating childhood trauma that fractures the family in seemingly irreversible ways. Kindi moves away to Montreal to heal and build a life of her own. Tei flees to London and attempts to numb her guilt and loneliness with reckless hedonism. After more than a decade apart, Tei and Kindi return home to visit their mother in Lagos, where the 3 women must address the wounds of the past if they are to reconcile and move forward. There's a moment in this book, and I can't explain it. It definitely made me cry, and it wasn't the moment that you think it would be. It was just like 2 people, how you run into a person and sometimes you just kind of like just click, but you're also just passing by each other in life. There's a moment in there that really like was so beautiful and brought me to tears, and it was kind of like at the middle point, I believe. And if you haven't read it, I definitely say pick it up, but just keep in mind that yes, this is definitely a slow pace. eggs in a basket. 3 books you want to read this spring. All right, then let's talk about my current reads then. I picked this up and I shouldn't have because it's definitely not on my agenda, but I was following the author on Instagram and they just tickled me. And so I picked up their book. I accidentally hooked up with a vampire. This was just so much fun. I'm barely on chapter 2 and I'm stopping there because this is not a priority. I have other priorities I'll talk about in a minute. But the way that the author writes, they have such a clear and distinct way of a defined voice that's not all writers can capture. And the characters are well defined. And I'm barely like on chapter 2, but I could already see that if I had the time, I could probably sit down and read this in one day. It's one of those books. I know I would. And so I'm just absolutely enjoying it. And so, yeah. Now this week, at the end of this week, I think on Friday, I'm interviewing DL Tillery. So she very kindly, generously sent me her short story, The Room Within, Getting What You Want, Maybe the End, Fractals, which I have not read. But I believe both of these, I think, are in the world of her debut novel, Cagliostro, Tale of the Libertine. And I also have another short story. I think I won in a raffle. That's an ebook. I don't have it on me right now, but I'm going to read all of those so that hopefully I do the book justice and just create like a nice dialogue for this interview. I'm very excited to interview DL, but I'm also nervous because, anytime I interview an author, I get nervous because I revere authors so much. So this is also like a romance horror kind of book, and I'm in the mood for it. I'm in the mood for a little bit of intensity on a fictional level. I want to be like moved emotionally. All right, Green Pastures, a classic that never gets old. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I do have one. That would be The Yellow Wallpaper and Other Writings by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I could also tell you, I think I read one story for a college class and it really stuck out to me. So some of these stories I have read, some I haven't. The one that stuck out to me was Three Thanksgivings. And it's about an older woman whose husband has died. And so she is trying to think about how she's going to navigate her life moving forward. Her adult kid is like pulling her in one direction. She's kind of thinking she wants to go another now that she has this kind of like independence in a way. And what I learned from that one story is I still have a lot to unpack when it comes to respecting a woman's like independence. Basically, like I just realized my initial thought was, oh yeah, why doesn't she just she could go live with her son and be a grandma type of thing. That's what I thought the solution was, but that wasn't for her, right? And I think that really just spoke to just because she's an older woman and now she's a widower, she has to think about what she wants in life and what that looks like. And I think I kind of realized like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting that was my default thought, because she just has so much more to offer. And that was just that one short story. The author is known for The Yellow Wallpaper. That's also a great short story. But yeah, this author definitely has a distinct sense of writing, and it's just really thought-provoking. And I've sent it to other family members actually, because I just thought that the author creates a really engaging discussion around what women have to navigate. I'll leave it there. All right, Pollen, a book or author you're allergic to. I cannot think of one. I tried. I don't think I read enough. Oh, actually, no, you know what? No, I do have an idea. I'm sorry, I picked a book and I forgot. This happened this year, actually. I think this is in January. I did a buddy read with Ashley from my sweet perspective. I'm very thankful for her time. I just wish I had picked a better book. I just didn't know what I was getting into because I don't like to learn about a lot about a book before I read it. I might read the synopsis a little bit and kind of leave it there. I do not look at reviews because I don't want to be influenced by what other people think. So this is a rare one for me because I really don't like doing this, but Dreaming of You by Melissa Lozada Oliva. I did not like this. I will not be reading anything else by the author. It was very exploitative. I still don't know how to say that word. And I don't understand why this was written. I'll just leave it there. All right. Bonus. Equinox. Find 2 books on your shelf that have the exact same number of pages and talk briefly about them. Guess what? I have too many books. I have too many books, and there's no way that actually I did try to go through my shelves and find something, and it was just like it just wasn't gonna happen. And so no, I have 2 books. Where is another? Oh, where is it? Where is it? I forgot it. I'll talk about one of them, and now I gotta grab the other one. Ah, I left it on my shelf. All right, the first one is the Department of Sensitive Crimes by Alexander McCall Smith. So this is like around 300 pages, if that. And this is just what I could potentially grab for this Equinox bonus one, but I failed miserably. I did pick up this cover because of that has like a little, what do you want to call that? Wolf and anamorphic type character, which is funny because the book that I really, really love from Hanif Durkheeb, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us, has a wolf's head and like, I guess like a human body wearing a jacket. And so something about that just really works for me. I read the synopsis of this and it sounds really good, but there's something about the translation of this because it's originally written in Swedish that's not working for me. And I don't want to get rid of the book. I'm just holding on to it and then maybe I'll come back to it and it'll work for me. And so on the back it says, in the Swedish criminal justice system, certain cases are considered especially strange and difficult. In Malmo, the dedicated detectives who investigate these crimes are members of an elite squad known as the Sensitive Crimes Division. These are their stories. The team Ulf the Wolf Varg, thoughtful and diligent. Anna Bendingsdottir is in love with Varg's car and possibly Varg too. Carl Holgersson, eager to take on even the most dangerous paperwork. And Eric Nivsk's Nickfist, fly fishing expert, with the help of a rather verbose local police officer. This crack team gets to the bottom of cases others won't bother to handle, like the small matter of a man stabbed in the back of the knee, an imaginary boyfriend who goes missing, and what seems like a pesky werewolf keeping spa guests awake. Equal parts hilarious and heartening, the Department of Sensitive Crimes is a tour de force from a true master. I will be right back because I still have to grab one more book. Hold on. Ay, ay, ay. All right, sorry. I try to be as quickly as possible. The last book for Equinox prompt is social justice for the sensitive soul. This is also like just around like not quite 300 pages. So these are like the closest ones I could get to match the last prompt. I will be buddy reading this with Margaret Bernard in June, I believe. Yeah, June. Going back to speaking about having a reading slump and feeling helpless, like I don't know quite how to contribute in this corrosive society. I thought this would be something for me to read. I am an introvert. I wish I had the gift of gab, but I just don't. Unless I'm talking about books, that's about it. And so this is How to Change the World in Quiet Ways by Dorcas Cheng Hazan. And I think just the cover alone, the title spoke to me. And so on the inside, I'll just read like one paragraph. Social justice work, we often assume, is raised voices and raised fist. It involves leading, advocating, and organizing wherever it requires, in the streets, slums, villages, inner cities, halls of political power, and more. But what does social justice work look like for those of us who aren't comfortable battling in the trenches? So I just like this idea of trying to offer like different ways to engage and to contribute to a society, and because everyone has something to offer, because we all kind of move around the world differently. And I saw this and I said, yes, I need to read this. This will be helpful to me and how I move through the world moving forward, because I do feel sometimes very helpless, and like whatever's going on feels like unsurmountable, I suppose. Anyways, so yes, that is it. We're at the end. I hope I didn't make this too long. Sorry for the pause. I had to run and grab the other book. Again, if you're watching this, consider yourself tagged. If you don't want to do the tag, but you're interested in engaging in the conversation, please feel free to comment below. And I look forward to having a discussion with you. Bye, everyone. Happy reading.